My family has a photo album from our 2010 beach vacation. There are 57 pictures. My sister Clara is in 52 of them, building a sandcastle, laughing, posing with my parents. I'm in one. My back is to the camera and I'm just walking into the ocean. That one picture tells you everything you need to know. For my entire life, my parents had 2 daughters, but they only ever had one star. My sister Clara was the sun. I was just the shadow she cast. And I kept playing that part silently, smiling and nodding, until the one night they finally pushed me too far. It started so early I barely knew what it was. When I was 8, I won the school spelling bee. I had studied for weeks, memorizing words I couldn't even use in a sentence. I came home with a blue ribbon and a certificate, my chest puffed out. My dad ruffled my hair and said, "Good job, champ." Then he handed me a $20 bill. Felt like a millionaire. For about 10 minutes. That's when Clara, my younger sister, came home crying. She'd been picked last for kickball. My mom and dad sat her down, told her she was the most special girl in the world and, I'm not joking, drove her to the toy store and bought her a $300 talking doll. I remember standing in the living room, holding my $20 bill, and just staring at my ribbon. The blue felt dull all of a sudden. I wasn't mad at Clara. You can't be mad at the sun for shining. But I was confused. I had done something. I had won. She had cried. And she got the prize. I folded the $20 bill into a tiny square, tucked it deep in my pocket, and went to my room. I didn't say anything. That was the day I learned the first rule of my family. My achievements were nice. Clara's feelings were an event. This pattern just got worse as we got older. In high school I joined the debate team. It was nerdy, I know, but I was good at it. I loved the logic, the arguments. My senior year I won the state championship. I brought home a trophy so big I could barely carry it with 2 hands. I walked in the door and my parents were inflating pink and gold balloons. My heart actually skipped a beat. Thought, no way. They're throwing me a party. I set the trophy down on the dining room table, my hands shaking a little. Mom, Dad, I won, said my voice cracking. My mom turned around, a string of ribbon clenched in her teeth. She smiled, but her eyes were somewhere else. Oh, Anna, that's wonderful. Just wonderful. Can you put that somewhere else? We need the table. Froze. What's all this for? Asked, my stomach tightening. My dad walked in from the garage holding a giant sheet cake. What do you mean? It's for Clara. She was voted most popular in the yearbook. He laughed, so proud he was beaming. We're taking her and all her friends out to celebrate. My trophy sat on the floor by the front door for a week. No one mentioned it again. That night, I sat in my room and stared at that gold trophy. It was shiny, but it felt cold. It was worthless. And I realized something. Their approval was a game I could never win. They didn't care about what I did. They only cared about how Clara felt. And if you've ever felt like that, like you're running a marathon while someone else gets a trophy just for showing up, you know exactly what that cold, empty feeling is like. You are going to want to stay until the end. Because I didn't just get mad. Got smart. My family was hiding the truth. My value. They buried it under my sister's yearbook photos and party balloons. Hit subscribe right now if you believe that everyone's hard work deserves to be seen. Don't be like my parents, pretending only one person's achievements matter. If you've ever been the quiet one who was working twice as hard in the background, comment. I see you down below. Let's stop siding with people who only see what's popular, and start celebrating the people who actually get the work done. Stay with me. What I built in that silence is going to shock you. So I went to college. I got a degree in finance and data analytics. It was boring. My parents told everyone, "Oh, Anna works with numbers." They said it with a shrug, like it was a shame. A year later, I landed a huge promotion at a top firm. When I told them, my mom just said, "That's nice, dear. At least it's stable. Did you hear Clara is starting a blog? She's going to be an influencer. Isn't that exciting?" 2 weeks later, my parents threw a massive party, complete with catering, because Clara had hit 1,000 followers on Instagram. Party. For 1,000 followers. Just smiled. He nodded. I even brought a gift. But they were right about one thing. My job was stable. It was also very well paid. And while they were busy celebrating Clara's likes, I was doing something else. In my boring little apartment after my boring job, I wasn't just working with numbers. I was making them work for me. For 5 years I had been taking my boring salary and my boring bonuses, and I had been quietly, obsessively, and brilliantly investing. I was building my own value in secret. They had no idea. While they were celebrating Clara's 1,000 followers, my private stock portfolio had just crossed $1.5 million. While they were worried about her brand, I was building an empire. I was their boring daughter. The backup. The shadow. The one who wasn't half the woman her sister is. I never said a word. I just kept building. I let them believe I was the ghost. Because a ghost can move anywhere. And I was just planning my exit. All I needed was for them to give me one last push. The night it all ended was my parents' 30th wedding anniversary. My mom had picked the most expensive stuck-up restaurant in the city. La Spina. It was the kind of place with tiny forks, white tablecloths, and waiters who looked like they were judging your shoes. She had sent a group text earlier that week. Family dinner 8 p.m. Be there. And Anna, please try to dress nicely. I almost laughed. I showed up wearing a simple, elegant black dress that cost more than my dad's monthly mortgage payment. But I knew it wouldn't matter. It wasn't pink, it wasn't covered in sparkles, so it wasn't Clara. I arrived exactly on time. They, of course, were late. 20 minutes later, they finally swept in, a wave of loud laughter and perfume. Clara was in the middle, wearing a bright yellow dress that glowed. She looked like a sunflower, and my parents looked like two people who had just discovered the sun. Sorry we're late, Clara sang. I just had to get a picture by the fountain outside. My dad kissed the top of her head. Anything for my girl. We sat down, and the air already felt thick and heavy. I could feel that old, familiar tightness in my chest. It was the feeling of knowing I was there but not really being seen. I was just part of the background like the wallpaper. My dad ordered a bottle of champagne that cost $400. To 30 years, he announced, raising his glass high. And to new adventures. My mom smiled, but she wasn't looking at him. She was looking right at Clara. I clinked my glass against theirs. Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad. My mom finally looked at me, but her eyes just glanced off me, scanning the room before landing right back on Clara. Oh, this isn't just for the anniversary, dear, she said, her voice dripping with excitement. Clara has the most wonderful news. Tell her, sweetie. I looked at my sister. Her smile was so big it looked like it might break her face. What could it be this time? Clara put her hands on her heart, like she was about to accept an Oscar. I'm quitting my job, she announced. And blinked. She'd had that job, as a receptionist at a yoga studio, for 6 whole months. I need to find myself, she said, her eyes wide and serious. So I'm going to travel. I'm going to see the world. Maybe I'll go to Bali or Paris. I'll just live. My parents exploded with joy. You would have thought she'd just cured cancer. Oh, sweetie, that's so brave. My mom gushed, grabbing her hand. Taking a risk. Following your heart, my dad added. That's my girl. I waited for a pause in the celebration. Wow, Clara. That's a big step, I said, trying to sound supportive. The cheering died down, and my dad finally looked at me, as if just remembering I was there. So, Anna, he said, waving his fork vaguely. What's new in numbers land? Everything stable. I took a small breath. This was my news. Actually, I said, I have some news too. I just hit my 5-year anniversary at the firm. I was just promoted to senior vice president. I said it quietly, but I was proud. It was a huge deal. It meant I was one of the youngest VPs in the company's history. It was nothing. Flat, empty, dead silence. My mom stirred her soup. My dad cleared his throat. "Oh," my dad said. 5 years. Well, good for you. Stable. That was it. Stable. Clara just looked bored and started checking her phone. "That's nice, Anna," she mumbled. "But did I tell you guys? I think I'm going to blog about my travels. I could be like a famous travel blogger." My father's face lit up again. "Now that's an idea. See, Anna. Your sister thinks big. She sees the world." And that's when the first crack appeared in the dam I had been building inside me for my entire life. I must have looked hurt because my face felt hot. I just stared at my plate. My dad sighed like I was the one being difficult. "I don't know, Anna. 5 years in a cubicle. Clara is out there living. Why can't you be more spontaneous? More like her?" I looked at my mom, searching for help, for anything. She just shook her head slowly, looking at me with what I finally realized was pity. "He's right, honey," she said, her voice soft and full of poison. "We just worry about you. Honestly. You're not half the woman your sister is." The words hit the air and just hung there. They were so sharp, so cold. The waiter came by and asked if we wanted more water, and no one even noticed him. Not half the woman your sister is. My entire life, all the spelling bees, the state championships, the degree, the millions in my secret bank account. All of it just flashed before my eyes. And I heard this tiny snap. It wasn't loud. It was the sound of a single tiny thread breaking. The very last thread that was holding me to them. It was the sound of me finally being done waiting for them to see me. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. My vision just became very, very clear. The restaurant, the food, their faces. It all just faded to gray. I very slowly, very calmly, picked up my white linen napkin, folded it. I placed it on the table next to my uneaten food. Then I looked up, and for the first time I think I really saw them. They were already looking at Clara again, my mom fixing a piece of her hair. They had dropped the bomb that shattered my world. And had already moved on. So I stood up. The chair made a quiet, polite scraping sound on the floor. My dad looked up, annoyed. "Where are you going now?" "The bathroom." I picked up my small black purse. I looked my mother right in the eyes, and my voice was perfectly level. "You know what, Mom?" I said, and the whole table went quiet. "You're right. I'm not." Smiled. A real actual smile. "I'm not half the woman she is. Thank God for that." And I turned around. I walked past the smiling waiter, past the other families having their quiet dinners. I pushed open the heavy glass door. The cold night air hit my face, and it felt like the first real breath I had taken in 30 years. They thought I was just being dramatic. They thought I'd be right back. They had no idea. I was walking out of their lives forever. I walked out of that glass door and didn't look back. My heels clicked on the cold pavement. I expected to feel sad or angry or maybe even scared. But I didn't. I just felt light. It was like I had been carrying a backpack full of rocks for my entire life, and I had finally just set it down. My phone started buzzing in my purse almost immediately. A text from Clara. Then one from Mom. "You are embarrassing us. Come back." I kept walking past the valet, past the fountain. I wasn't going to my boring apartment they all knew about. No. I was going home. I took a taxi across town to a neighborhood my parents thought was too industrial. I stopped in front of a tall, old brick building that used to be a warehouse. My key didn't go into a normal door. It slid into a private elevator lock in the lobby. The doors opened not into a hallway but right into my real home. A huge 2-story loft with giant windows overlooking the city lights. It was all glass and steel and warm wood. No pink balloons. No yearbooks. No pictures of Clara. Just me. This was the first thing I bought with my investment money. And they had no idea it even existed. My phone buzzed again. And again. A missed call from Dad. I walked over to my kitchen island, which was made of a single massive piece of polished concrete. I looked at the screen. The new text from Mom read, "Anna, get back here. You are ruining our night." Thought about that. I was ruining their night. I, the person who wasn't half. I held my thumb over the power button. I thought about the $400 champagne. I thought about stable. And then I pressed the button. The screen went black. The buzzing stopped. The silence in the loft was beautiful. It was the sound of my new life beginning. I didn't cry. Crying was for Clara. It got her new dolls. Crying was a waste of my energy. Instead, I walked over to my desk, a huge piece of dark wood facing the skyline. I opened my high-performance laptop. The screen lit up, showing my complex trading dashboards. Numbers, logic, graph, things that made sense, things that didn't lie. My family ran on feelings, on drama, on favorites. But the real world runs on numbers. And I was about to show them exactly what my numbers meant. My family had just made a very, very bad calculation. And I was the one who was going to balance the books. I opened a new, blank spreadsheet. I typed a title at the top. Family Financial Severance. I made 2 columns. Column A. Invisible Contributions. Column B. Action Item Terminate. I cracked my knuckles. This wasn't about revenge. Revenge is messy. This was an audit. For my entire adult life, I had been the silent, invisible investor in The Clara Show. I had been the family safety net. And my family had just defaulted on their loan. It was time to call in my debts. And I was going to liquidate everything. I started typing. Item 1. The family cell phone plan. It was in my name. All 5 lines. My parents, Clara, even my aunt and grandma, paid for it all. Why? Because I was stable and good with money. Item 2. The car insurance. My parents' 2 cars and Clara's brand new convertible were all on my policy, because my boring job got a better rate. Item 3. The loans. I started typing in the date and the amount of every. "Hey Anna, can I borrow $500? Text from Clara. Total was shocking. Over $25,000. And what about the other things? The things I couldn't put a number on. I stopped typing. It wasn't just the money, was it? It was me. Who did my parents call when their computer crashed? Me. Who stayed home from her own college spring break to help my dad with his taxes? Me. Who proofread every single one of Clara's amazing blog posts so she didn't sound like she hadn't passed the 3rd grade? Me. I was their unpaid, unthanked, invisible tech support, accountant and editor. I had been doing 3 jobs in this family, not 1. And my promotion was just getting called half. I took a deep breath and went back to the spreadsheet. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady. Next to family cell plan, I typed in column B. Call provider. Separate my line. Cancel the rest. Effective tomorrow 9 a.m. Next to car insurance. Call agent. Remove all other drivers and vehicles from policy. Effective tomorrow 9:05 a.m. Next to Clara's loans. Create auto-reply. Link to local temp agency website. I wasn't just walking out. I was taking the entire foundation of their comfortable lives with me. I sat back looking at my list. It was clean. It was final. I was free. But then, my eyes drifted to a picture frame on my desk. It was an old photo of my grandma, my mom's mom. She was the only one who ever really saw me. She used to call me her little secret weapon. And seeing her face reminded me of something. Something I had almost forgotten. My dad's stable job. My mom's shopping money. I pulled up my old encrypted files, the ones my grandma gave me. I had forgotten the biggest chain of all. The one they didn't even know I held. Years ago, my grandfather had left me in charge of the family trust. Me. The boring one. The numbers one. He didn't trust my mom with it. My parents just got an allowance from it every month, managed by an anonymous administrator. They thought it was a big, faceless bank. But I was the administrator. I had been signing their checks for 10 years. My mom, who told me I wasn't half the woman my sister was, had been cashing my signature to buy the very shoes she wore. And I just remembered. The trust had a morals clause. Behavior clause. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Dear family lawyer. I began. They hadn't just lost their cell phones. They had just lost everything. I didn't sleep. I just watched the city lights fade from my giant loft window. The sun came up, painting the sky gray, then a cold, watery pink. At 8:59 a.m. I was sitting at my desk, holding a hot cup of coffee. My hand was not shaking. At 9 a.m. exactly, my finger hit the dial button on my desk phone. I wasn't calling the phone company first. No, this was bigger. I was calling Mr. Henderson, my grandfather's old lawyer. He was sharp, over 80, and the only other living person who knew I was the secret boss of the family trust. Anna, he said, his voice like gravel. I received your email. Are you absolutely certain? Invoking the behavioral clause is final. I am Mr. Henderson, I said, my voice perfectly clear. The clause was simple. My grandfather, who saw everything, had written it himself. The trust allowance was only for family members who acted with integrity and mutual respect. It was a secret button, and my parents had just slammed their fists on it. Last night, I said, my mother told me I wasn't half the woman my sister is. In public. After a lifetime of this behavior. Mr. Henderson was silent. I just heard the sound of him breathing. Then, the documents are very clear, Anna. Public degradation and sustained favoritism are a breach. I heard him typing. As of this moment, the monthly allowance for Judy and Mark is suspended, pending a full review. Hung up. The biggest cut was done. 9:05 a.m. I dialed the phone company. My boring job meant I had a high-priority business account, so I didn't even have to wait on hold. A cheerful woman named Brenda answered. Hi, I said. I need to make a change to my family plan. Okay, what can we do for you? She chirped. I'm splitting my line 5551212 onto a new solo account. The other 4 lines. My parents and my sisters. I want them all cancelled. Immediately. Brenda paused. Oh, cancelled. Not transferred. Ma'am, if I cancel them, those lines will just stop working. Right now. I looked at the skyline and smiled. I know, Brenda. That's the idea. Please proceed. 9:10 a.m. I dialed my insurance agent, Tom. Tom loved me. My investment portfolio made him a lot of money. Anna, my star client. What's up? Need to add another sports car. He laughed. Actually, Tom, I said, I need to remove a few. I gave him the details. My dad's boring sedan. My mom's SUV. And Clara's brand new, shiny white convertible. Just remove them. As of today? He asked, and I could hear him stop typing. Yup. Just me on the policy now. He was quiet for a second. Anna. You know that means if they drive those cars, they're driving illegally. They could be arrested. I looked at my spreadsheet. That sounds like a them problem, Tom. Not a me problem. My desk phone rang a different line. An old school number I actually recognized. It was my Aunt Jean, my mom's sister. She was the family black sheep because she'd had the nerve to divorce her husband and travel the world, kind of like what Clara pretended to want to do. I'm going to guess this isn't a social call, I said, picking up. She let out a loud laugh. I just got a very weird, very angry text from your mother. That didn't go through. Then I got one from Clara that also didn't go through. Then Judy called me, screaming, from the restaurant's landline last night. I leaned back in my leather chair. Oh, really? What did she have to say? She said you made a scene and ruined her anniversary by walking away calmly, Jean said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. So, congratulations. It's about damn time. I was shocked. You're not mad at me. I cut your phone off too. Honey, she cackled. I've been paying my own phone bill for 30 years. I just let Judy think I was on her stable daughter's plan. I've been waiting for you to pull the plug on that whole circus. I'm the one who told your grandpa to put that behavior clause in his will, you know. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't alone. So, she said, what's next, you little genius? I looked at my laptop. The next step, I said, is Clara. I knew Clara. She wouldn't call. Calling was for emergencies. She only texted for money. Or she used payment apps which were of course tied to my bank account. I turned my personal cell phone back on for the first time in 12 hours. It exploded. It looked like it was having a seizure. 48 missed calls. 92 texts. All of them angry, confused. Our phones are dead. The insurance app is red. Anna, call me now. This isn't funny. I ignored every single one. I opened my text messages. And there it was right on top. A new one from Clara. Anna, what did you do? And also I'm short on rent. I need $1,200. Like now. I didn't even type a reply. I just pasted the message I had written last night. Hi, Clara. Due to a recent and permanent change in my financial situation, I am no longer able to provide non-essential loans. I value your independence and want to support your new career as a travel blogger. I smiled as I typed the next part. To help you find yourself and fund your new adventures, I've gathered some resources for you. Pasted a link. It wasn't to a bank. It was to the website for Quick Temp, the local temp agency. They have some wonderful openings in data entry and filing. I hit send. 3 little dots. Clara is typing. Appeared instantly. Then they stopped. Then they started again. Then they stopped. My phone rang. It was her. I let it go to voicemail. A new text came in. It was just a string of angry face emojis. Then, you will regret this. I wasn't scared. I was just done. I had cut the trust. I had cut the phones. I had cut the insurance. I had cut the money. The audit was complete. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes, and for the first time in my entire life, felt peace. But then a horrible, cold feeling washed over me. I had forgotten something. When? My grandma. My sweet grandma, my mom's mom. The one who gave me my first book on investing. The one who called me her little secret weapon. She was on my phone plan. I hadn't even thought. In my cold, calculated move, I had cut her off too. I had hurt the one person who ever stood up for me. Felt sick. My hands were shaking for the first time all day. I grabbed my phone and dialed her number. It went straight to a dead air message. This line is no longer in service. I was about to call the phone company back, begging to fix it, when my other phone rang. The private, unlisted line to my loft. A number I didn't know. I answered it. Anna. A quiet, familiar voice said. It's Grandma. Don't worry, dear. I saw this coming. I bought a burner phone last week. I hung up the phone with my grandma and just breathed. She knew. She had known. She called me her little secret weapon. And she'd bought a burner phone just in case. It made me feel like I wasn't just a monster who had cut everyone off. I was a soldier following a plan, and I had allies. My grandma and my Aunt Jean. They were my real family. They saw the whole game just like I did. I looked around my huge, quiet loft. The sun was fully up now, streaming in through the giant windows, making patterns on the wood floor. It was the first day of my real life. The silence was the best part. No buzzing phone. No angry texts trying to get through. No feeling of dread, waiting for the next time Clara needed money or my mom needed to throw an insult. It was just quiet. I made myself a real breakfast, eggs and toast. I sat on my sofa, looking out at the city. I felt like I was floating. I had done it. I was free. I had cut every string. I had won. But I was wrong. I hadn't just cut strings. I had also, without knowing it, lit a fuse. And it was about to explode. While my laptop was still open, I checked my personal email. Not my work account, but a secret, encrypted one. This email was tied to my other secret, my blog. For 3 years, I had been running an anonymous investing blog called The Shadow Analyst. I never showed my face. I just posted my strategies, my market predictions, my analysis. I did it for fun to prove my theories. I never made a cent from it. But the blog had gotten popular. Very popular in the world of high finance. It had a following of people who actually understood what I did. There was one new email in the inbox. The subject line made my heart stop. It wasn't from a bank or a follower. It was from a journalist. A very famous journalist at Forbes, one of the biggest financial magazines in the world. He wrote, "To the Shadow Analyst. We have been following your predictions for 6 months. You haven't been wrong once. We are running a Women in Wealth profile and we want to feature you. Who are you?" I stared at the words. They wanted to feature me? They wanted to pull me out of the shadows. This was not part of the plan. The plan was to be free, quiet, and rich. The plan was not to be famous. My family loved the spotlight. Clara loved the spotlight. I loved the shadows. The shadows were safe. They were where I built my entire empire. If I said yes, I was stepping out into the light. My family, everyone would see. They would know everything. The loft, the money, the real me. Was I ready for that? For a second, my hand moved to the delete button. I could just ignore it. I could stay hidden forever. But then I thought about my mom's words. "You're not half the woman your sister is." I thought about my dad's disappointed face. Stable. I thought about that stupid, cold trophy sitting on the floor. They had kept me in the shadows my whole life. Now someone was finally offering me a light. I picked up my phone and called Aunt Jean. I read her the email. She just screamed. "You do it, Anna," she yelled. "You do it and you burn that whole rotten system to the ground. Time, kid. Let them see you." I took a deep breath. I replied to the email. "I'm in." The next day, a man and a woman were standing in my building's lobby. The man was the journalist Mark. The woman was a photographer. I brought them up in the private elevator. When the doors opened directly into my loft, their jaws literally dropped. The photographer just whispered, "Whoa." Mark, the journalist, looked at me, then at the wall of windows, then at my high-end trading setup on my desk. He was holding his notebook, but he wasn't writing. He just stared. I think we're in the wrong place," he said. "We're here for the Shadow Analyst. We were expecting an old guy in a basement." Smiled. "I'm Anna. And you're in the right place. Coffee." For the next 2 hours I was the one who got to talk. This wasn't a family dinner. I wasn't being interrupted. I wasn't being compared. Mark asked me about my strategies. He asked about data models, about risk, about the market. Finally got to talk. Felt alive. I wasn't the boring daughter. I wasn't the shadow. In this room I was the star. The photographer snapped pictures the whole time. Not of me posing, but of me working, of me pointing at my screens, of me explaining my world. After a while, the photographer, a woman with kind eyes, stopped me. "Can you just stand by the window?" she asked. I stood there, looking out over the city. "Now," she said, "look back at me. But don't smile. Just look at me like you just closed $1 million deal." I did. Blick. The flash went off. "That's it," she whispered to her boss. "That's the cover." Froze. Cover. They had said a profile. Cover story was something else. Cover story was huge. It was something you couldn't hide from. Mark, the journalist, was packing his bag. He was quiet, but he had a strange look on his face. He looked amazed. "Anna," he said, "I've been a financial reporter for 20 years. I thought I'd seen it all. But you." He shook his head. "This isn't just a women in wealth story. This is the story." He handed me his card. "The article comes out next week. And when I say it comes out, I mean it's going everywhere. The cover, the website, the whole thing." He paused at the elevator door. "I'm warning you. You're not going to be anonymous anymore. Are you really ready for what happens when your family finds out? That whole next week felt weird. I went to my boring job. I sat in meetings. I ran my numbers. But I wasn't really there. I felt like I was holding my breath underwater, just waiting. I knew the article was coming, but I didn't know when. I kept checking the magazine's website, my heart doing a stupid little flip every time. Aunt Jean called me every night. Is it out? Is it out? She'd ask like a kid waiting for Christmas. Not yet, I'd say. Part of me wanted it to come out and change everything. The other part wanted to crawl back into my safe, quiet, anonymous shadow. Then, on a Tuesday morning, it happened. I was in my loft, drinking coffee and watching the market open. My phone buzzed on the counter. But it wasn't a text message. It was a push notification from the Forbes app itself. The one I had downloaded just for this. The alert just said, "Meet the shadow analyst. The 29-year-old genius who turned a boring job into a $7 million secret." My blood went cold. I couldn't feel my hands. I slowly reached over and tapped the link. The web page loaded. And I think I stopped breathing. It wasn't a small picture at the bottom of the page. It was the page. It was the cover. There was my face filling the whole screen. It was the picture by the window. I looked powerful. I looked serious. I looked like a stranger. I looked nothing like boring Anna. And then I saw the headline they put right next to my face. My blood ran even colder. It read, "The analyst who built a $7 million portfolio before 30, and walked away from a family that didn't see her." Oh my God. He used it. He put my family right in the headline. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely scroll. The story was huge. Told everyone everything. My secret loft. My strategies. My wins. And then it got to the why. Mark had written. When asked why she stayed anonymous, Anna said her family always valued popularity over performance. She decided to stop trying to win their game and just win her own. He quoted me. He put my words right there in black and white for the whole world to see. The numbers don't lie. He had told my entire story. He had validated my whole life. I read the article once, then twice. It wasn't mean. It was true. It painted me as this brilliant, hidden force. It respected my mind. It was all the things I had screamed inside my head for 20 years, now written down by one of the most respected magazines in the world. It was proof. It was the blue ribbon. It was the state trophy. It was the party. It was everything all at once. And just as I was starting to feel this warm, glowing pride, my other phone, the family phone, which I'd left on silent on my kitchen island, started to vibrate. Didn't just buzz. Screamed. It vibrated so hard with so many notifications all at once that it literally skittered across the concrete counter and fell onto the floor. I just stared at it. It was like a horror movie. It wouldn't stop. It was a flood. Dozens and dozens of calls and texts, all in a few seconds. My heart was hammering in my chest. They knew. They had seen it. The bomb had finally gone off. And I realized my quiet, secret, peaceful life was over. Forever. I didn't pick up the phone. I just watched it buzz on the floor. My laptop pinged. It was an email from Aunt Jean. The subject line was just, "Holy." The email just said, "You're the #1 trending story on the planet. You didn't just light a fire, kid, you dropped a nuke. I'm so proud of you I could burst." I clicked over to my shadow analyst blog. The one that used to get a few hundred visitors a day. The live users counter was spinning like a gas pump. 10,000, 50,000, 200,000 people. All reading my words. All seeing me. I finally picked up the buzzing phone. I opened my text. It was like looking into a war zone. My fingers were numb. The first one was from Clara. "What is this? $7 million. You lied. You lied to us all. You are a horrible person." The next was from my dad. "You need to call me. Immediately. You have embarrassed this family in front of the entire world. What were you thinking?" And then my mom. Her text was the longest. How could you? How dare you air our private family business? After everything we did for you. We gave you a home. We supported you. You are a selfish, ungrateful child. I read the word supported, and a laugh came out of my mouth. It was a scary, sharp sound. Supported. They were the ones who told me I wasn't half. I was about to throw the phone against the wall. I just wanted them to be quiet. I was so sick of their noise. I was about to block them all, just turn it all off and hide. But then I saw I had one new voicemail. It had come in while I was reading the texts. But the number. It wasn't my family. It was from a corporate landline. I recognized the area code. It was from my dad's work. My blood stopped moving. Why was my dad's boss calling me? My dad had worked at the same small insurance firm for 30 years. I pressed play on the voicemail, my ear to the phone. A man's voice, cold and serious, filled my ear. Miss Anna. This is Robert Davies, from Allstate Financial. I'm your father's managing director. He cleared his throat. I've just read this fascinating article about you. And I have to say, I'm shocked. He paused. There are some serious questions this article brings up. We need to talk. It seems there's an issue with your father's expense reports. We need you to call us back. I stared at the phone. An issue with your father's expense reports. What did that even mean? My dad was a mid-level manager at a boring insurance company. He didn't have big expenses. He wasn't a big, fancy executive. My numbers brain, the one my family hated, started to spin. It was like a lock clicking into place. My dad always complained about being broke. And yet, there was always money for Clara's new laptop. There was always money for my mom's expensive dinners. There was always money for a $400 bottle of anniversary champagne. I always thought they were just bad with money. What if it wasn't their money? My mind flashed back through years of tax returns I'd helped him with. The numbers. They never quite added up. He always had write-offs that seemed weird. It's just business stuff, Anna, he'd say, patting my head. Don't worry your stable little head about it. I hadn't worried. Just accepted it. Now I felt like a total idiot. That Forbes article, the one that called me a genius, had just made me look like the dumbest person in the world. I hadn't just exposed my family's emotional secrets. I might have just accidentally exposed a crime. The phone in my hand, which had been buzzing with angry texts, suddenly felt heavy like a brick. They were all yelling about being embarrassed. They had no idea. They were worried about what the neighbors thought. I was suddenly worried about jail. This wasn't a family drama anymore. This was real. My screen lit up again. A new text from my mom. But this one was different. The angry, all caps yelling was gone. This one was scared. Anna, please pick up. Your father's office called him. He looks sick. Please, Anna, what did you tell that reporter? Call me. I didn't reply. I just sat there in my huge, silent loft, feeling the walls close in. The phone rang again. It was her. I knew I shouldn't answer. I knew it was a trap. But I couldn't help it. Had to know. I pressed accept and put the phone on speaker, so its voice just echoed in the empty room. Anna! It wasn't a yell. It was a sob. Full-on fake theatrical cry. It was the Clara scraped her knee voice. The one that used to get her anything she wanted. Anna, honey, thank God you picked up. There's been a horrible misunderstanding. I just stayed silent. I let her talk. That awful reporter, she cried. He twisted everything you said. You know we always supported you, honey. We've always been so proud of you. I could hear my dad yelling something in the background, but I couldn't make it out. Remember that spelling bee you won, she went on, her voice cracking. We gave you $20. We were so proud. You know we were. She was using the $20. The $20 from 20 years ago. She was using it as proof that they loved me, completely forgetting the $300 doll that came after. She was trying to rewrite my entire life right there on the phone. And that horrible thing he wrote. That I said. About you and your sister. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I never said that, Anna. You know I would never in a million years say that. Why would you let him print such a hateful lie? And that was it. The sickness in my stomach turned to ice. She was lying. Flat, easy, terrible lie. About something she had said to my face less than a week ago. My voice came out cold and empty. I was there, Mom, I said. You said it. The fake crying stopped. Instantly. Like a light switch. And no, I didn't. She shrieked, and the sudden rage in her voice made me flinch. You are just like your Aunt Jean. You twist everything. You've always been jealous. Jealous of your sister. Jealous of our family. And now you've ruined him. You've ruined your father. The line went dead. She had hung up on me. My hand was shaking. I ruined him. I didn't do anything. I just told the truth. I just stopped being their shadow. My other phone rang. Private line. My grandma. I just got off the phone with your mother, she said. Her voice was steady as a rock. She told me you ruined your father. Could barely speak. Grandma, his work called. They're asking about his expense reports. Hey, I think he's been stealing. My grandma let out a long, slow sigh. A sigh that sounded like it was 30 years old. Anna, she said, listen to me. Your father. He's a gambler. Not horses. He was always trying to be you, but he was bad at it. He's been borrowing from that company and paying it back for almost 15 years. I sank down onto the floor. It all made sense. The secret money. The stress. The obsession with my stable job. He wasn't stable at all. He was a fraud. That Forbes article, my grandma said. It made you famous. And it made his bosses look very closely at the father of this shadow analyst. They probably just wanted to brag about him. And instead, they found this. I had pulled the one thread. I had pulled the one tiny loose thread. And their entire rotten fake house had just collapsed. They will blame you for this, she said, her voice hard. You know that, right? They will never admit it was his fault. We hung up, and I just sat there on the cold floor, surrounded by my $7 million, and I had never felt more alone. The family phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't want to look. I wanted to throw it out the window. But I made myself get up. I made myself look. It was a new text. It wasn't from my mom or dad. It was from Clara. Her tone was gone. No angry faces. No all caps. Just told. Anna, Mom is in the hospital. She had a panic attack when the police showed up. Dad is with them. They're at the house. You did this. This is all your fault. I hope you and your money are very happy. You just destroyed our entire family. I read Clara's text one more time. You just destroyed our entire family. The phone slid out of my numb fingers and hit the polished floor with a clack. I didn't pick it up. I just backed away, step by step, until I hit the cold glass of my window. Hospital. Police. You did this. The words echoed in my giant, perfect, multi-million-dollar room. For one long, terrible second I believed her. I did this. I had a skill. I gave an interview. I told the truth. And my truth had apparently sent my mother to the hospital and my father to the police. Felt sick. I had just traded my whole family for a magazine cover. My private phone rang, the safe one. It was so loud in the silence it made me jump. I grabbed it, desperate for a friendly voice. It was Aunt Jean. I answered, but I couldn't speak. I just made this choking, gasping sound. Anna, she said, and her voice was sharp like a slap. Don't you dare. Don't you dare believe one word of it. Jean, I whispered, my voice shaking. The police. Mom's in the hospital. Clara, said I. Clara is a parrot, she snapped. She only says what your mother tells her to. And your mother. Anna, did you tell your father to gamble away his life? Did you tell him to steal from his company for 15 years? No, I whispered. Then you didn't do this, she said. And the hospital. Panic attack. Are you kidding me? Froze. What? What do you mean? Asked. Honey, Jean said, and her voice was tired, like she'd seen this movie 100 times. Your mother has been fainting and having attacks every time your father got close to getting caught since 1998. It's her one move. It's her get-out-of-jail-free card. It distracts everyone. She's not sick, Anna. She's performing. She's making herself the victim, so nobody looks at the real problem. She's just doing what she's always done. Hung up the phone. The sickness in my stomach faded. And in its place was a cold quiet. Nothing. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was just empty. I looked at the text from Clara again. You destroyed our family. I finally realized she was wrong. I hadn't destroyed anything. You can't destroy something that's already broken. You can't set fire to a house that's already just a pile of ash. I hadn't been a match. I had just been a flashlight. I just turned on the light. And the light showed all the monsters and the lies that were hiding in the dark. I spent the rest of the day in silence. I didn't answer the buzzing family phone. I didn't check the news, even though my face was probably plastered all over it. I just sat at my desk and watched my trading screens. Green, red, green. The numbers went up. The numbers went down. They were simple. They were honest. They didn't lie to me. They didn't cry to manipulate me. They didn't blame me for their own mistakes. Late that night I got an email. It was from Mr. Henderson, the lawyer. It was one sentence. Anna, do not talk to your parents or sister. The police have taken your father in. This is much bigger than we thought. Bigger? How could it be bigger than 15 years of stealing? Called him immediately. Anna, he said, and his voice was heavy. It seems your father wasn't just gambling with the money he stole. He was investing it in some very shady offshore accounts. He lost almost everything. The Forbes article didn't just alert his bosses. It alerted other people, federal people, because Anna, the secret illegal fund he was running, he named it the Shadow Fund. He was using you. I ended the call and just stood there. My blood turned to ice. He hadn't just ignored my talent. He had been using it. He had been hiding behind me. All those years he called me boring and stable. He was probably laughing. He was using my boring reputation as a cover while he told his shady friends, "Oh, my daughter's a genius with numbers. This is all legit." My success hadn't exposed him by accident. It had ruined his lie. My entire life, my one skill. He had turned it into a weapon. And he had used it to protect himself. I walked to my giant window and looked out at the city. It was sparkling with thousands of lights. I wasn't the shadow analyst anymore. I wasn't Anna, the boring daughter. It was just me. And for the first time I was safe. I realized I hadn't destroyed my family. They had built their house on a rotten foundation, and they were just blaming me for the storm. This was what quiet justice felt like. It wasn't loud like a party. It wasn't angry like a fight. It was just balanced. The books were finally balanced. I was finally at peace. I made myself a cup of tea. I put on some quiet music. I was ready to just be. And then my laptop pinged. An alert from Instagram. Someone had tagged me in a post. Clicked it. It was Clara. She had just posted a video. A selfie video, filmed in her messy bedroom. Her face was red, and mascara was streaming down her cheeks. She was sobbing. And the caption read, "My liar sister Anna stole my father and ruined my life. Please help me." The video already had 10,000 views. I watched, completely horrified, as she cried to the camera. My sister. She choked out. She's worth $7 million, and she used her money to have my father arrested, she wailed. She cut off our phones. She's trying to make us homeless. All because we were proud of her. She was lying. She was twisting everything. She was painting me as the rich, evil villain and herself as the poor, innocent victim. And the comments, "OMG, your sister is a monster. How can we help? Sending you love, Clara." She wasn't just lying. She was building an army. And she was pointing it right at me. I just stared at the screen. At Clara's crying face. The comments, "Monster. Gold digger. I hope you rot." 10,000 views. 20,000 views. Just kept climbing. Clara, the one who could never hold a job, had finally found her calling. Being a professional victim. She was so good at it. She was telling the whole world I was an evil, rich monster who had her father arrested just for what? For fun. And they believed her. My logic, my Forbes article, my $7 million. None of it mattered. In the court of public opinion, a crying girl on Instagram will always beat a quiet woman with a spreadsheet. My first thought was to fight back. Post my own video. To go live and show them the proof. To scream, "He's a gambler. He stole money. He's been lying to you for 15 years. But I stopped. My hands were on my keyboard and I just stopped. That was her game. Crying. Yelling. Drama. That was the game I had lost my entire life. I wasn't going to play her game. I was going to play mine. My game wasn't about who could cry the loudest. It was about who had the facts. And Clara. She had just made a very, very big mistake. I didn't block her. I didn't delete my account. Just watch. I read the hundreds of comments. "We have to help you, Clara. Let's start a GoFundMe. Where does this monster sister work? We should protest." And then I saw it. A new comment, right from Clara's own account. She replied to a fan. "It's so much worse than you know. She's trying to make us homeless. She's evicting my poor sick mom from our family home. All because she's mad." Evicting. That was a new lie. A very specific lie. And a very, very stupid one. You can't be evicted from a house you don't even own. And I knew exactly who owned that house. I opened my family trust files on my laptop. The ones my grandpa had left me. The ones I had been managing, but never really looked at. I scrolled past the stocks, past the bonds to the real estate tab. And there it was. 1428 Willow Creek Drive. My childhood home. The house they were all living in. I looked at the line item. Owner, Anna C. Davis, trustee. I felt the air leave my lungs. I owned their house. I had owned it for 10 years. My grandfather, the secret weapon man, had left the house to me. He had put it in the trust, where I was the only one who could touch it. He knew. He knew my dad was a gambler. He knew my mom was weak. He had protected the house by giving it to me. All those years my dad, the man who called me stable and boring, had been living rent-free in his daughter's house. All while telling me I wasn't good enough. And Clara was now, at this very second, telling the entire internet that I was trying to make her homeless from my own house. This had to end. Not online. Not with comments and videos. This had to end. In person. I wasn't going to reply to her video. That was her world. I was going to bring them all into mine. The world of facts. Picked up my phone. I didn't call my mom. I didn't call Clara. I called my dad's brand new, very expensive criminal lawyer. The one I was paying for out of the trust. "This is Anna," I said, my voice cold as steel. "I understand you're representing my father in his federal case." The lawyer sounded surprised. "Yes, Miss Davis. Thank you again for..." "He's living in my house," I cut him off. "And his daughter is publicly accusing me of crimes I haven't committed. I want a meeting. My loft. Tonight. All 3 of them. Or the trust is frozen. And I will be selling the house." I didn't set the long, fancy dining table. I didn't pour any wine. I just stood in the middle of my huge living room under the high ceilings and waited. At 8 p.m. the private elevator doors dinged and opened. And there they were. My father, my mother, and Clara. They didn't look angry. They looked small. My dad's expensive suit was wrinkled. His eyes were red and empty. My mom was clinging to his arm, her face pale and blotchy. And Clara. The second she saw my loft, the real loft, her jaw just dropped. All the fight, all the fire from her Instagram video just vanished. She wasn't an influencer here. She was just a girl in a hoodie. They stood in a little scared triangle, right by the elevator. My dad wouldn't look at me. He just stared at my floor. Anna, he mumbled. The lawyer. He said. He said you own everything, I said. It wasn't a shout. It was just a fact. I own the trust. I own your car. I own your house. Clara finally looked at me. Her eyes wide with a look I'd never seen before. It wasn't hate. It was confusion. You do, she whispered. You're living in my house, I said, my voice flat. And you're on the internet, telling 100,000 strangers that I'm making you homeless. You called me a monster. You told them I. What was it? Stole Dad. Clara just fell apart. She didn't faint like my mom would. She just slid down the steel column of my loft and started to cry. But this wasn't the fake, pretty cry from her video. This was an ugly, gasping, messy sob. I choked. I didn't know. I didn't know about the house or the money or any of it. You just what? Yes. I just hated you, she wailed. I hated that you were so good at everything. I hated that you were so smart. And then I hated that you left us. You left and all the yelling. He just yelled at me. I was scared. I just wanted them to look at me for once. My head was spinning. My whole life I had been jealous of her. The golden child. A son. And she had been jealous of me. Of my brain. The one thing they never, ever praised. It was all so stupid. So broken. My dad just looked at the floor in shame. My mom, finally seeing she was losing, rushed forward. Her face was a mask of panic. Anna, she whispered, grabbing my arm. Anna, please. Your father. They're going to send him to prison. For years. But you have the money. The $7 million. The lawyer said you can fix this. You can pay it back for him. You can make it go away. You're his daughter. You have to help us. My mom's fingers were digging into my arm. You have to help us. The words just hung in the air of my giant, quiet loft. Pay it back. Make it go away. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Her face wasn't sad. It was greedy. Desperate. She wasn't asking me to save my father. She was asking me to save her lifestyle. After everything. After you're not half the woman. After she lied to my face. After she sent Clara to attack me online. She was still trying to use me. She still saw my $7 million as a family piggy bank that she was allowed to break. I slowly, very gently, took her hand off my arm. I looked past her at my father, who was still just staring at the floor, unable to even look at me. He was a coward. He had let her do the dirty work. No, I said. It wasn't a shout. It was barely a whisper, but it was the loudest sound in the room. My mom's face just crumpled. What? She gasped like she'd been slapped. No, I said again, a little louder this time. I will not pay for his crimes. I will not light my life on fire to keep you warm. That's over. Anna! My mom shrieked, and all the fake sadness was gone, replaced by pure, ugly rage. He is your father. He will go to prison. Yes, I said, my voice flat. He will. Because he's a criminal. He stole money for 15 years. He didn't just make a mistake, Mom. He made a career of it. And he used me. He named his dirty, illegal fund after my hard work. He was hiding behind me. He didn't just gamble money. He gambled my name. And he lost. The bank is closed. Clara, who was still on the floor, looked up. Her face was a mess of tears and mascara. But, what about us? She whispered. What about me? If Dad goes to prison, what happens to us? And there it was. After all that crying, all that I was jealous of you. It still came down to who will pay my rent. She didn't care about Dad. She cared about her allowance. I had spent my whole life being jealous of the girl in the spotlight, and she had spent her whole life just being a user. I looked at the three of them. My father the criminal. My mother the user. My sister the parasite. This wasn't a family. This was a failing business. And I was done bailing them out. I walked over to my desk, opened a drawer and took out a single key. I walked back and held it out. This, I said, is the key to my house. The one you are all living in. The one my grandpa left me to protect from you. My mother's eyes went wide. She reached for it, her hand shaking. I won't sell it, I said, and she almost fainted with relief. I won't make you homeless. Here are the terms. Dad will face the consequences. You will not ever contact me for money again. And Clara. I looked at her. You will go to your temp agency and you will get a job. Real one. I'm keeping the house. You can all live there. But the trust is now paying for Dad's lawyers, and nothing else. The free ride is over. You are on your own. I dropped the key into my mother's shaking hand. My dad finally looked at me. Not with anger. Not with sadness. Just with nothing. He was a hollow man. Anna, he whispered. I'm. Don't, I said. Don't you dare say you're sorry. It's too late for that. I'm not doing this because I love you. I'm doing this because I am done. I walked to the elevator and pressed the button. The doors opened. It's time for you to go. They walked past me one by one. My mother wouldn't look at me. Clara wouldn't look at me. My dad. He just looked old. The doors closed and they were gone. I stood there in my loft. The silence was back. But this time it was different. It wasn't lonely. It was clean. I had done it. I had faced them. I had told the truth. I had kept my empire and I had set my boundaries. I walked to the window and looked out at the city. For my whole life they told me I was half the woman, half as good, half as loved. But tonight, I had never felt so whole. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their party. I had my approval. And that was enough. This story. This was for anyone who has ever been told they were the boring one. For anyone who was the stable one, the backup plan. For every person who has been quietly doing the work while someone else got all the applause. My family's truth was ugly. It was built on lies, jealousy, and theft. And they hated me for turning on the light. But the truth, it has to come out. Hiding it doesn't make it go away. Just makes it grow like mold in the dark. Hit that subscribe button right now if you believe that everyone deserves to have their hard work seen. Don't side with the Claras and the parents who only praise the loud and flashy. Share this video if you know someone who needs to hear that they are whole, not half. And comment, I am whole down below if you are done playing their games and ready to start winning your own. Thank you for listening. Your support. It matters. And I'll see you in the next story.